Fatima Whitbread. I'm looking at a headline that said, "I didn't always grow up in a happy home, but all children should." That's
Yes,
your belief. That's what you want to see, isn't it?
absolutely. I mean, I'm working with Action for Children to create a bigger awareness for young children, vulnerable children that live in the care system, to try to give them a voice so they could be seen and heard, and hopefully their, emotional, that they'll be held, and their emotional needs be met. Because I think we've got this image. It's an old image that children that live in care, it's a little bit like either Tracy Beaker, where they're all having fun, or these kids must have done something wrong because that's why they're in the care system. And for me, I mean, that it needs to be revamped. It needs to be brought into the modern day. The fact that we have 100,000 children in the care system as we speak, that's way too high. One is one too many, and it's tough out there. That there's 800,000 families, 800,000 families that living on the food banks, and it's only going to get worse with the way things are going. And for me, I mean, it's first 14 years of spending in my life in children's homes. I understand what these kids are going through, and I see it quite clearly. Without people getting behind this, I can't see it getting any better. I honestly feel it's my calling, as it were. So yeah, here I am banging the drum and hopefully creating a bigger platform for these young people to
So
help
here,
them.
here you are. We've seen you. There's news items. We've seen you speak on I'm a Celebrity about it. What else can you do? Can you go from town to town, city to city, to village? What else can you do?
Whatever it takes, to be fair, Michael. I mean, obviously, I'm one person banging the drum, and then obviously, when the Pied Piper plays, hopefully people will follow, and that's really what I'm trying to do here. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I'll make as much noise as necessary, and it might take me a bit of time, but I certainly will work extremely hard at you know, to try and improve and make a difference for these children in their lives, because every child deserves a happy and safe childhood. And it's not just the children in the care system as well. I mean, I spoke about poverty, they're borderline here as well with regards to some children. We need to be able to give these children meaningful choices, a chance, so that they can keep a focus and stay out of trouble, some of these kids. But for the ones that are in the care system, for me, it's all about finding a loving, secure home. And we need more foster carers. We need more adoptees that come forward. I think the antiquated awareness of what was in the care system is no more, and we need to get that message out. There is a vital support out there for these foster carers and adoption families, to help them through their difficulties as well, adjusting to taking in foster children. Some of them, I mean, obviously they're just surviving at the moment in the care system, but give them a chance with a loving, secure home, and they won't just survive, they'll thrive. Because we all need love. We all need to feel like we've been held, heard, and listened to, and no more so than these children. And one really important thing for me, and I'm going to fight very hard for them, is to help these families as well, the foster families and not so much the adoption, because they get to keep the kids, but the foster families. I mean, they do such a lot for these children. And then, of course, through policy, the government policies, these children are then asked at 16 to leave the families and go into independent living. And I think it's far, far too young for a youngster to go independent living. And it's why, when so many foster carers want to be able to give those children a secure, loving home throughout, not just up till they're 16. I mean, it's not just the job. They become part of the family. And that to me is crucial, for that. My son still lives at home. He's 25. I can't get rid of him. But, do you hear where I'm coming from? I mean, most families, their children stay into their late 20s, developing skills, they've been given anyway life skills through living in a loving, caring family. Whereas a lot of these children have been emotionally and abused and mentally, it's very tough for them to process it. It takes time, you know, and to find a loving family for some of these kids. Some of them are not just youngsters; they're also young people, teens. And to be in a family and start for a few years and then be told you've got to go independent living is quite a tough one for them. You know, they're vulnerable. You take them out of their loving, protective nest, and they're vulnerable people, you know, and they get preyed upon because they're very trusting sometimes because they're desperate to find that connection with people.
So do they have to leave at the age of 16? Is that sort of like a law or a rule? Yeah.
The law. It's law.
Right.
They are, yeah, which is quite shocking, really, because what do you know at 16, really? This day and age, it's tough out there, you know, and I want to be able to flag up these things, how important it is with the government, Minister for Children. At some stage, pull a group together. I'd love them to invite me to the table because there are lots of things that we could do to improve, make a difference in these children's lives.
So have you spoken to politicians? Have you been up to the House of Commons and spoken to them? And if not, would you like to go and say, listen, this is my story, this is my journey, this is who I am. What can you do for me?
Well, as part of my journey, that is one of the key things I've got on my list of things to do. It's creating an awareness and a platform first for the children. And then obviously in the midst of that, that's then to be able to take it to the ministers and go to Downing Street or wherever it may be. And let's sit down, let's talk about this. I mean, who better to talk to someone that's been in the care system for the first 14 years of my life, who know what children are going through. And also I'm shadowing social workers and learning about the multifaceted job that they have to do and the changes that have been made since back in the 60s when I was in children's homes, and the constant moves that some of these kids go through in foster families too. We don't want that because we need these kids to feel secure in a home, you know, and find their shining star with somebody that they can trust and connect with and thrive.
We have partnerships with Essex County Council, and you can see on our site with you know, fostering, etc., on your Thurrock and your Harlow. But how do I make this personal, Fatima? How do we find more Maggie Whitbreads, of all due respect? They must be out there, from John O'Groats to Land's End, or maybe she was just special. Well,
because at the end of the day, there's not enough time given to children in the care system. I think they're given a bad deal, to be honest. It's fobbed off a lot of the time, and I think that, you know, we need to spend a lot more time talking to people like myself that have a knowledge and understanding for what's needed, and also some of the agencies also that do a tremendous amount of work for these foster families, but it's a tough one trying to convince them because some of the policies aren't really good, which make it more difficult for people to come forward. So it needs a set of people to come together in partnership through foster caring, through social workers, through someone like myself who's a voice for the children, and talk to the ministers about how much simpler it could be and make it much more, I think, a loving, secure family environment rather than it's just a job, because it's not just a job. You know, if you look at your own children, you don't treat it is a job. It's one of the toughest ones, being a parent, but you do it with unconditional love. And I think it's the same for these young children. They're already going through difficult times, through feeling neglected and abandoned and a sense of loss. It's very hard for youngsters to process that. So we need to look at it closer and see what we can do to support more the foster parents and the adoption in order to make it possible for and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there thinking about it. It's just getting the message out there and, you know, and rejuvenating what is an antiquated system.
what do you have a plan? Do you have a plan for 2023 or beyond, or is this just simply I'm going to keep going with this? This is my
Yeah,
calling. You called it a calling, didn't you?
this is my calling. I've always believed, as an athlete, I mean, I was fortunate that, you know, I mean, let's put it this way: sport was my savior from as a youngster in the children's homes. I'm busy putting together a book because there's not enough known about children in care, and I think I'm writing it from a young Fatima's perspective. But at the end of the day, it's a guide really for those people that need to understand what these kids go through, and also for foster carers and children alike. It's not just a book for foster carers or for children in care, it's for everybody. You know, I mean, we need to, and I'm going to gift that to Action for Children, because for me, it's all about the children. And it's about raising funds, which I do all the time when I do my challenges. I just finished doing 100 miles in South Downs in 24 hours the last couple of weekends ago. And in April, I did the London Marathon. And 2 years ago, I did climb Mont Blanc. And also, obviously, with SAS Who Dare Wins and I'm a Celeb in South Africa, it's all added to help to build the platform and the awareness of which to get the message across of how important it is, you know, to be able to support this industry. I hate to call it an industry because we shouldn't be in a situation where we've got, you know, more than a couple of people that are struggling, which is realistic with poverty levels being so high as they are. I mean, 800,000 kids, families rather, that are living on the food banks. It's going to get worse. And a fair percentage of those kids will probably end up in care. If not in care, some of them may well find that they end up, you know, getting in the wrong hands of others, you know, and getting into mischief, which they you know, that they wouldn't so do if they had the love and support of a family that's able to give, you know, 24. No, not so much 24/7, but the love and support and the emotional needs that these children need. I think that today there's a lot of mental health issues out there with families that are struggling with poverty, and we see so only too often that sometimes mum has to put their children into short stay care because they've had a breakdown or something of that nature, or there's a split in the family and mum or dad can't cope. And then again, there's long stay people like myself that stay in care. I mean, 14 years is a long time, but to be honest, I wouldn't want any child to be living in care for 14 years. That was a surreal, a very stressful period of time in my life. But at the same time, I think it's made me realise, as I said, going back to the point what we were talking about, that I realise now I'm much stronger as a character. To be able to recognise what I went through and what these kids need, the help they need. So that's why at this age, I'm just, you know, this is my calling. I'm here, ready and able, and you know, I'm damn sure I'm going to try and bang down everybody's door to try and get the help we need.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Fatima. I look forward to hearing and seeing you bang down those doors.
Thank you.